Hi friends, it's Jeff here, coming at you today with Sketchbook Tour number 2. I was working on this sketchbook from October of 2022 all the way to August of 2023. This sketchbook has some of my favorite drawings in it and some of my least favorite too. So I hope you sit back and relax and enjoy going through it with me. Cheers, y'all. Okay, let's get into it. I got this sketchbook from my sister as a birthday present. I've always really loved these guys on the front. They're pretty fun. But yeah, as you all can see, the sketchbook has gotten a lot of wear and tear and is held up really well. So shout out my sister. Getting into our first page here. I was starting this sketchbook on October 1st. So this was my very first Inktober that I participated in, which was super exciting for me. It was something I'd always wanted to do, but I never had been able to commit to drawing or, doing it consistently. So I was really excited to attempt it this year. That being said, I think because I did not spend a lot of time on most of the Inktober drawings, there's a lot of really ugly ones like this. This day 1 prompt is Gargoyle, and I don't have a whole lot to say about it. I think it kind of speaks for itself, but it is not one I'm particularly proud of, especially as the first page of this sketchbook. Day 2, the prompt was Scurry. I like the idea here of the little mouse and the big scary cat. But yeah, I think it was just a lot of space to fill up. This sketchbook is a good bit bigger than my first sketchbook, so I think I also was adjusting to kind of the way I needed to scale things out. But yeah, like no perspective here, just super empty, but the mouse is pretty cute, so can't be upset about that. You'll see in this sketchbook I have some more kind of scrapbooky elements throughout. This is a black heron bird that one of my friends was a RA, a resident advisor in college, and kind of, helped like look over the dorms, whatever, you get it. And this was a little decoration they made for me, which was pretty kind of them. This is a character from Fire Punch, which is one of Tatsuki Fujimoto's series. He's a really great artist, but yeah, I really liked this character design. I always thought this guy was super creepy looking. I never quite finished it, but I always remember in particular being really proud of the hatching I did on this specific corner. I was just like really meticulous with trying to make it all line up and look pretty, and then the rest of it's kind of a mess, but what can you do? On to the next page, another friend who was a resident advisor gave me this door decoration, Arthur, pretty cute. Day 4 prompt was Scallop. I drew, I think the inspiration here was definitely Pan's Labyrinth and the monster creature in that, but with scallops instead of eyes. I don't know, it was an idea. Day 5 here is Flame. I remember really not wanting to draw this day. I don't remember what was going on, but it actually turned out okay for just being like 5 minutes of doodling. Okay. Day 6, we've got Bouquet. Little ballpoint pen drawing, kind of gives it a nice messy style, but I actually think this one came out pretty well. No idea what happened to day 7. Day 8 is Match. Really horrible drawing again. I think the idea is kind of funny, but yeah, it did not turn out well. Okay, I actually remember now. This is day 7. The prompt was Trip, I think. So I took the album art for Danny Brown's album, XXX, which is a great album if you haven't heard it. But yeah, I kind of took the base layer of the eyes and then added all of my own doodles around it. And I've always loved this drawing. I always really wish that I would have done more on it, but kind of once I got around to where I was at, I just didn't feel confident in adding anything else to it without feeling like I was going to fuck it up. which is an attitude I've tried to get better at letting go of, because I think, like, a fully realized of this drawing would be really, really cool, I think. But yeah, I just left it half finished. I remember I was going to write Trip going up here in like day 7 and kind of a cool font like going up the teardrop, but yep, never got around to finishing that one. Day 9 here is Nest. I think I wanted to be back in my comfort zone, so I drew a One Piece character. I think this is Baron Tamago. Cool character design, kind of fun. Day 10, Krabby, little crab making a cupcake. I don't know where that inspiration came from, but, I'll roll with it. Day 11, Eagle. Just nice fountain pen drawing here. I've always really liked how this one came out and kind of how, like, angular a lot of the lines are. I remember doing that just on my lunch break at work. This is day 12. This one's Forget is the prompt. I always thought that was like a really silly prompt or like really hard to come up with a creative idea for. So I kind of just doodled and had this crazy looking person back here and some sequence of events that caused them to be, not be an amnesiac or something. I guess there was an idea there. Day 13, the prompt was kindly. If you've played BioShock, you understand the significance of would you kindly, so I just drew a little lighthouse here because BioShock, you start out in a lighthouse, that's all I'll say. Day 14, the prompt was empty. Super simple little shell drawing here, but I was using some random like gel pen where it's like, every little line will just be super smooth, so I think it kind of came out nice. Day 15 is Armadillo. It's an armadillo. I don't know. He's a little cowboy too. Pretty cute. Oh, welcome to my least favorite page in this whole sketchbook, maybe. I always have hated this page. This was like my 3 shittiest drawings from Inktober. We have foul here. I tried doing like a little bird pun because it's a foul, a bird, but also they've got basketball shoes on, so like they got fouled and are calling for the foul. I don't know. I thought it was a good idea. It was not a great drawing. Number 17, Salty. I tried drawing like the troll face from like 2010 memes, but angry. Yeah, I've always really disliked this drawing. And then Scrape, I tried drawing a scraped knee, just like super fast, like 2 minutes. I just did not want to draw this day, and yeah, I think it's pretty evident in the finished product that I was not really giving it my all. Day 19 here, we have Ponytail. I just looked up a picture of Rihanna. It's not great. I think the 3/4 perspective was kind of messing with me, but I've always kind of liked her hair. Number 20 is Bluff, just a hand playing cards. I think this one turned out pretty well. The cards look pretty on point for being like the right sizes, more or less. So maybe would have added some shading on the hands here, but I don't know. I like that. I like that one. Number 21, the prompt was Bad Dog. That was my interpretation of it. Day 22, Heist. Honestly, pretty fun drawing here. I remember like really wanting this to be like all blacked out and running out of my marker that I was using. The gun here looks kind of weird, but I was trying to draw from a different perspective than normal, so I'll give myself some props for the attempt. Another page I've always really disliked. Day 24 is Fairy. I just don't think this drawing really worked in execution. I think it just ended up looking really sloppy and poor, and I've never liked it. Day 23, Booger, self-explanatory. I don't know. Day 26 here, Ego. My original idea for this was having someone having like, their brain kind of being like a big toxic mound of sludge, but I never got around to finishing it. I just like had maybe done this in the day, and then the next day I had a new drawing to do, so I just moved on. But yeah, pretty ugly one, I think. Day 27, Snack. I think this turned out pretty okay. just a simple little drawing from life kind of thing. But day 28 here, camping. I've always really liked this page. It's really simple, but I like that I fully blacked out the page here and, you know, use these pens, and they're kind of different values to, I think, a pretty decent effect to, you know, give this some life. And I like I've always really liked like the ribs on the outside design. I don't know if I've like copied that from something. I feel like you'll see that in some of my sketchbooks if I kind of go back to that design a lot. Oh, this is one of my favorite pages. Definitely Chloe there with a lipstick print. I love her so much. But yeah, this was definitely looking at something off of Pinterest. I remember this was not of my own creation, but yeah, all props to the original artist, but I do think I replicated it pretty well here. Remember, was using a fountain pen, and just like, I love the way these lines came out, especially the pants and boots. Like, oh, chef's kiss. Like, I love this design. I love the way my drawing of it came out. Just super proud of this one. And I'd stopped it halfway, like I think just like up to his torso for a long time, and had never finished it. So going back and doing the rest felt really nice. And then day 31, so our last day of Inktober, the prompt was farm. I tried drawing the Black Ops 2 zombies map farm from the first person perspective here. Our person's got the ray gun. If you've played the game, you will probably be able to recognize it based on this. But yeah, it's not a great drawing, but I like the idea. Just a little Zorro transition page, I guess. Okay, got some One Piece character drawings here. I've got Luffy and Law, two of my favorite characters. And I really spent some time on these drawings, I remember. I'm still super happy with how they turned out. I think the hatching on both of them is really good. These were definitely looking at references, but I think I really, at this point, was really getting down, like, you know, copying something from a reference and getting it looking pretty close to the source material. So yeah, pretty happy with those. I've got some random sketches here of some weird creatures that me and my friends did while we were out at a bar one night. These are just like drawn on some lotto tickets. So kind of nice to have like some memories like that in here. I've just got a kind of scribble doodle page in here. All of these were done with the fountain pen I was using, which I feel like it has some good drawings that I've done with it, but it's just like also a lot of really ugly, sketchy stuff like this. But I think in this sketchbook a lot, I have a lot more pages where I was just like, I'm just taking this space just to scribble and draw shapes and, you know, not feel like I have to have something that really contributes to the sketchbook as like an overall art piece. You can tell I was still really into reading One Piece at this point. A bunch of character sketches of Law. This kind of makes me cringe a little bit on it, looking back at it. You know, I'm still an anime fan, but I don't know. I feel like this page makes me look like more of a weeb than I actually am. And okay sketches. Here, I've just got some 1 minute, just like figure drawings. Yeah, you could definitely see that, you know, I probably started up here and they gradually get a little bit better as you kind of follow the page. These were just some sketches I think my roommates at the time did. Got Garfield there looking pretty jacked, and Odie and John. Some 2 minute character sketches, but penis. Sorry, forgive me. This was also looking at a figure drawing, like, you know, one of those websites where they'll just cycle through people for you to draw, and thought it was really creepy, but kind of a striking image of this woman in a gas mask, and this was some kind of like big drape. So I thought I would spend a little bit more time and draw that one out in pen. Cool little doodle here I've always kind of liked. I think these drawings were at an airport, I remember. I love being in an airport early and like getting to find a coffee shop and just like draw people around you. I think it's so entertaining. I feel like because of that, like I really remember this moment of like exactly where I was and drawing these people. So kind of nice to have that to, you know, put this where I was at with this sketchbook in time. Nice little kind of hand drawings here. It always bothered me that these guys I did some cross-hatching on to give it a little texture, you know, some shadows and contrast, and these hands I did not. I always thought there was a lot of potential for this page to be really cool if I filled in the middle with kind of more stuff like this. But I didn't really know where to take it, and, you know, I think this sketchbook I really liked a lot for how big it was, but I think I discovered that it was just too much for me sometimes because, you know, if you want to fill up a full 2-page spread, it's just a lot of ink and a lot of space. So I think I felt a little exhausted by it. These were just some drawings on Pinterest. I remember this one was looking at, you know, a reference of some woman just posing. Turned out fine, I guess. And then this was a drawing of me. It was supposed to be a self-portrait, you know, just in pencils, and the face is super weird looking, but, you know, not bad. This page I've always really liked. This was just another woman posing on Pinterest, kind of messed up looking Zorro there. And then, this is Anthony Fantano and, the guys from the NFR podcast. If any of you are familiar with kind of music and hip-hop YouTubers, like, you will recognize the faces, but yeah, I was definitely just watching a video of theirs and decided to draw them. This was also supposed to be a little self-portrait. I never had hair this long, but yeah, I was definitely inspired by Attack on Titan and just wanted to give myself that hairstyle. But I like kind of the watercolor that I chose to do here in this like deep red with the black pants. I've always kind of liked that contrast. I got some steel beam worker here. Really ugly, sketchy drawing, you know, where I'm really unconfident in my lines, and yeah, awful head shape here. Yeah, not one I'm super proud of. This is another one of those aforementioned scribble pages. I've got one of the Den Den Mushi squirrel, or not squirrels here, what the hell, snails from One Piece. And then just a train here, I don't know, security camera sort of thing. Who knows? I've got a big 2-page spread here of Law from One Piece again. A lot of Law in this sketchbook. But yeah, I think this one did not age super well. I remember really liking it at the time I finished it, but the way some of the ink has bled here, you know, some of this watercolor, I think actually, you know, from like this, you know, from here down is pretty good. But the face in particular really didn't quite turn out. And, you know, I would have liked to see some of these lines have a little bit more depth or intensity to them, you know. Blank page. I don't know. Oh, this is a drawing of Katakuri from One Piece. I remember this being like my favorite page in this sketchbook for a long time. And I was just so proud of this drawing. And I do still like it. But looking back on it, like, I think his torso and body positioning is a little bit funky. But yeah, like, I think his pants came out great. I love like the hockey here on his arm and his donut mochi power in the background. This is definitely looking at a reference, but yeah, really proud of how this one came out for the most part. Little Captain Smoker here from One Piece, another really cool character. I remember this was a super quick sketch. Another scribble page for the most part, really ugly face here. You know, sometimes you just have to get on a page and just draw some lines a little bit. So yeah, weird little doodle there, and Kurapika from Hunter x Hunter. I've got a little dojo karate guy here. Not a whole lot to say about it. One of Law's crew members, Beppo, from One Piece, really cute polar bear. And then this woman, I don't know where I got this image from, probably Pinterest or something, but I think it came out okay. She's got a bit of a forehead, but, you know, pretty cool. Moving on to the next page here, Page I really like actually in this sketchbook. Just a lot of figure sketches. I remember starting with this guy, some kind of near future cyborg was kind of the inspiration here, but yeah, this is definitely from my imagination, and not a horrible drawing, not great, but for it being just, you know, something I whipped out pretty quick, I don't mind it too much. I've got a kind of close-up here of Doflamingo from One Piece. This definitely was my interpretation of him, and I think in a different style. It actually came out pretty cool. Little Sanji in a wetsuit here. I've always really liked these boots, how they came out, kind of specific, but yeah, I think they look really good. And then I tried drawing my Elden Ring character on the end here, and yeah, he's a little wonky. He's seen some better days, but I think this page is again a testament to you know, if you ever don't love a page in your sketchbook, just add more to it, and you know, I think by this page being pretty full, I tend to like revisiting it. I've got a little Zoro transition page here, nothing too special. A couple of those in this sketchbook. On this page, I remember this day, I was really kind of inspired for whatever reason to start trying to more improve my art journey in a more structured way. So I was doing some anatomy studies here of arms that look pretty all right. As you will see, I very quickly gave up on that, and I've continued for the last couple of years just to kind of draw at my own pace and draw whatever interests me, and I think it's worked well for myself. You know, I'm not trying to be the next Da Vinci or anything, so you know, if this is your preferred method of learning art, then I totally respect it, but I just don't think it's quite my path. Pretty fun doodle here. I was definitely going really crazy with this pen. The page almost has like a texture to it, but yeah, kind of fun little eyeball popping out guy. Quick little sketches here. This is Ace from One Piece. Yet another bad Ace drawing in these sketchbooks. Far from the first, far from the last to be in here. For whatever reason, I'm just never able to draw him very well. Little Crollo sketch, I think that is. I've got another doodle page here. I've always liked this one a lot. Definitely unfinished. I remember getting, you know, up to this section and not quite knowing where to take it. But there's some elements of this I really like. I've always really liked this kind of through line tentacle here. And I love what I did with this flower in the corner of, you know, having it kind of sprout out these, like, all of these different petals, you know, with their own different pattern. I think that's pretty fun. So, yeah, not a bad page. You know, I think if I finished it, it would have, you know, popped a little bit more, but still pretty fun to revisit. I've got some sketches here of Crollo from Hunter x Hunter, really cool character, and definitely kind of my style. I really love this top drawing. You know, I think the kind of perspective of his head turning back towards the viewer is really cool. And I love the way his hair came out. I think it falls really realistically, or I just like the styling of it. And another drawing here of him kind of from the, you know, the frontal view. Also pretty well done. I like the earrings a lot. I would definitely wear those if I could find something like them. I've got some figures here. I remember these actually. I had just done some more, you know, kind of 1-minute figure drawings. And I was on a plane at the time, so I was, you know, kind of looking for things to draw, and I just decided to go over some of these sketches in pen and kind of, you know, give them some more detail and a bit more life. So I think this soldier looks pretty good. I remember the idea here was to make her a ballet teacher with like a baton, you know, like a pretty hard, you know, hard teacher, but yeah, she didn't turn out looking too great, and then a really messed up looking witch or something. Random guy here. I've got some glasses and a record player, you know, just some random from life studies. Really great drawing here. This is copied from Berserk, which is one of my favorite mangas, and yeah, Kentaro Miura, the artist, just has such an amazing style. I think the line work here I did a good job at replicating, and it's just, you know, super intricately hatched. But yeah, I'm super proud with how this drawing came out. You know, even though I was looking at a reference, I think something like this, at least for my skill level, is still, you know, it's really hard to capture and do justice. So, in particular, I'm really pleased with how some of this armor came across and the hatching on that. So, yeah, really love this drawing. I didn't quite finish it. You can see, yeah, like this tarp or bedding or kind of whatever still needs some texture to it. But yeah, I've always really loved this drawing, spent a lot of time on it, and you know, I just love Berserk. It's a great story, so it feels good to have some things that are commemorative of it in this sketchbook. Random, pretty edgy gun drawing here. It's fine. I don't have a whole lot to say about it. This was definitely just something I pulled off of Pinterest and thought looked cool, so I decided to draw it really quick. Oof. Pretty ugly drawing here. I've always thought this guy looks kind of like a fish. Yeah, not, you know, I can tell I didn't spend long on this, but yeah, this is still pretty ugly. Hard to look at that one for sure. I've got some more random doodles on this page. I think one of the things I'm picking up from this sketchbook is a constant theme is because it's bigger, a lot of the drawings in here are unfinished. I think I was just, you know, using really fine pens like this. It's really hard to fill up a whole space with ink like this. So I like a lot of the ideas here. You know, I think these bees going to these flowers is pretty cute, and a little school of fish down here. Start of another doodle there. But yeah, you know, not a bad page, pretty fun. I like the pen in my hand here too, drawing out the bees. Another really great drawing, I think, or one I'm really proud of. This, again, is copying from something. This is a drawing of Zorro that Eiichiro Oda was commissioned by Gucci to draw some of the One Piece characters in Gucci clothing. So that's where I drew this inspiration from. But I'm super happy with how my colored pencils, in particular, on this drawing came out. Looking at the leg, or this camel coat, I think I was able to get kind of a really rich contrast in some of the colors, and, you know, really kind of brings out some of these tones. So I'm super proud of how this one came out, even though I was just copying from something. You know, it was a big undertaking for me at the time to fully color something like this in, and I'm still super happy with the results. Like, even these cuffs up here on his dress shirt look really sweet. So yeah, really happy with this one still. A great one to have in the middle of this sketchbook. Random little Sanji drawing here. I've always really liked his hand there. I've always thought that looked good. These are just some random scribbles from a day that I was sitting on my front porch at the house I used to live at. So I've got my sketchbook there, definitely like a LaCroix, and my phone sitting on it or something. Then just some random characters that I came up with. Yeah, not a whole lot to say. Just, you know, sometimes you need a page just to jot down some quick ideas. This was also sitting on my front porch at that old house. I've got my legs here. This is my car. It's an Acura 2006 MDX. Great car. It's got like 220,000 miles on it, and it's still kicking. So, you know, love that car. It's done a lot for me, and it's still going strong today. So, it's nice to see it immortalized here. And then some pretty decent sketches here of this lighter, maybe a little short, but yeah, you know, good drawing from life and kind of understanding the mechanics of how things work or go together. This is a kind of fun drawing, super sloppy, but one of my roommates at the time was really into high fantasy stuff. So, you know, he's a huge Lord of the Rings fan, big D&D player. So I asked him what to draw one day, and he told me I should draw a wizard riding on a dragon. So this is my interpretation of that. This was definitely all from my own imagination. So, the dragon kind of ended up being a weird sort of Pegasus type thing. Pegasus unicorn, maybe. I don't know. And then the wizard here is pretty cool, holding onto these sweet chains with some skulls on them, some really ugly skulls. But yeah, pretty messy drawing overall. The composition I think could have been a little bit stronger. But from having this all be from my imagination and in a pretty short amount of time, I was overall pretty happy with how it turned out. I've got some sketches here of some motorcycles and a tractor. At this time, I was really inspired by Kim Jong-ji, who was a really fantastic artist. And he has a YouTube channel that's really great where he'll kind of walk you through, his approach to understanding perspective. And he tends to draw a lot of, mechanical things, I guess, for lack of a better word. So I was taking some inspiration there and trying to, have some kind of interesting perspectives on things that weren't just kind of the normal side profile like this. And I think it turned out all right. Not amazing. I like the kind of cowboy here. This is just a quick little sketch. This was in another one of my roommate's bedrooms. And he was in a bunch of bands, and his big thing was collecting amps and cabs. So he would have all of these massive speakers in his room and have his guitars hooked up to them. And this picture is not doing justice how big these amps were. I guess, the little guitar for reference there kind of gives you an idea. But, I didn't even get to drawing half of them. Like, it was like the full wall of his bedroom was all amplifier. So, yeah, you can imagine it was a little hard to get to sleep sometimes in a house like that. It was always loud. Just some little figure sketches here, some random one-point perspective practice, I guess, there in the background. Not a whole lot to say there. I've got some character drawings from Hunter x Hunter. I had finished Hunter x Hunter at this time, or the anime, and really loved it and just felt inspired to draw a bunch of characters. So I wanted to do more and add all of my favorite characters over the next couple pages. But yeah, really quickly decided to change that idea because it was going to be a lot of work. But I like how both of these little drawings came out. My roommates at the time were watching The Sopranos, so this was kind of a gangster mafia inspired page here. We've got a Tony Soprano look-alike here in the foreground, and then just, these are all made-up mobsters. Really happy with how this bottom section came out. These were just all from imagination, and I feel like I gave everyone a bit of their own personality. A little Subaru there, not a very mobster car, but I live in Portland, Oregon, so it's kind of the normal around here. And then, yeah, really ugly mob boss here. Yeah, not a big fan of that drawing, but what can you do? Just some random sketches on this page. Crocodile from One Piece here with some hilariously bad proportions. Just really makes no sense. But pretty decent boxer here that I remember sketching out pretty quickly. That one I was happy with. Pretty ugly astronaut drawing here. In my next sketchbook, I have a drawing of an astronaut that I really like, so I'm going to say that this was just practice for that, but yeah, the execution of this one could have been a lot better. This is kind of a concept I had of a fuzzy fish. As you can see, I did not get too far along in the process of developing it, but kind of a fun idea. Another pretty good page, I think, here. I've got another drawing of Crollo from Hunter x Hunter, definitely one of my favorite characters. And I just think, this was definitely copied from a reference, but just I think my line art here was really on point. Everything looks super crisp. I like how black the blacks are and how stark the white is. And then he's got this cool power of summoning these like skeleton bone fish that do something. I don't quite remember what they do. but I added this in the background, so I kind of added in my own flair a little bit to this, and I think it came out looking really sweet, so yeah, super happy with that one. Then I've got a just random sketch here of a pretty buff guy with a really square head here, little eyeball with a nail through it, you know, just pleasant things to add to the sketchbook. Okay, let's keep moving here. This is one of my favorite drawings in the sketchbook, or at least definitely the drawing I spent the longest on. This is all characters from Hunter x Hunter from the most current arc of the manga. Big recommendation if you haven't read it. But this was my take on trying to come up with an original cover art for the series. So I think there's some things that I've copied from, like this Kurapika here in the foreground. Him doing this pose definitely exists, so I definitely pulled that from somewhere. But the overall composition of this piece as a whole was all original, and I was trying to use some principles of, like, having these chains with the eyeballs on them coming down and kind of guiding the viewer's eye a little bit, and some kind of good mirroring here with two of our main antagonists and their really horrifying creatures that they have. Yeah, I just, I think there's definitely some problems that I see just right off the bat looking at this drawing. But overall, for the amount of time I put into it, and for it being my first kind of attempt at doing a bigger piece that was, for the most part original, or at least combining all of these elements together in a way that worked, I am super proud of this drawing. If you've read the series, there's a lot of little hidden touches in here, like these being two of Kurapika's different chains that he uses, two of his different abilities, the red Kurta eyes, and yeah, the Nen beasts of our villains here. Just super happy with how this came out. So yeah, definitely is a page I like revisiting and just looking at. Just super quick figure drawings here. I was doing a lot of that at the time, which is really helpful, but I don't really do it in my sketchbooks much anymore. I've got some more figure drawing here. I was really into that. I remember actually on this page I had gotten a new Pigma Micron pen, one with a pretty fine tip. So I was just, kind of doing figure drawing sketches and then going over them in pen and trying to come up with a character design out of something simple here, just like these boxy shapes. So I really like this person here with this pistol. I think that looks pretty cool. I think this lady looks pretty cool, kind of witch or something. Nice little cat there. And then, yeah, really creepy lady over here. I really like how this perspective turned out with this guy's hand. I think that looks really great. And yeah, just some random doodles up here. But I've always really liked this page for some reason. I think it's just kind of all over the place, but there's enough going on that I'm, I've kind of ended up liking it. More figure drawing here. I think these ones I spent a little longer on, probably 2 or 3 minutes, so I was able to, get some of the shapes a little better defined, so you can kind of tell what all of these poses were like. So definitely some improvement there. This was an attempt to get some redemption for the first page of this sketchbook, the Gargoyle Inktober prompt. So I was trying to base it on this a little bit, but a different design. And I definitely like this one more. Still think it's ugly. And again, earlier in the video, I pointed out that I like doing the ribs outside of the body as kind of a creature design little thing. So I'm seeing that pop up again there. Yeah, it's fine. This was just a random little sketch of a little, like, jellyfish submarine pod going down into some underwater village here. Really fun idea. I love how creative this is, but yeah, not the best in terms of perspective, and definitely didn't finish it, but not a bad drawing overall. This one here tells us what's going on. Watching Fantastic Mr. Fox with Chloe, Todd, and Celeste. Chloe's my girlfriend, Todd is her dad, and Celeste was Chloe's roommate at the time. is July 17th. Yeah, we were all drawing things from Fantastic Mr. Fox or from the movies, and I whipped this out pretty quick, and I thought it ended up looking pretty good, even though it's, you know, obviously super scribbly. But yeah, feels like it fits the movie pretty well, so not upset about that one. Big doodle page here. I feel very okay about this one. There's parts of it I like. For some reason, I've always really liked these weird, like, forks going to this eyeball. But yeah, overall, you know, nothing too much to say about it. Just, you know, something I was doing to waste some time and keep my hands busy. This is a doodle page that I actually really like. This was using a really fine fountain pen. You'll see me use this pen a lot, and it's pretty difficult to draw with, or at least for me, and just because it's so fine and kind of scratchy, it ends up, I feel like, with a lot of my drawings looking kind of half-baked. And hard to fill up a space as big as this. But yeah, I just kept adding to this, and it's a lot of super ugly things, honestly, but I've always really liked this section here, this kind of crossbow and weird plumes of smoke and, I don't know, alien brain or whatever is going on here. And I've always been really proud of this person in the, like, this was supposed to be kind of one of those mobilized carts that people can use at grocery stores. So I was just trying to draw something like this from memory, and, you know, I really like this character that I ended up coming up with, and kind of the blobbiness, I hope that's not offensive, of him, I think was kind of fun, you know, so yeah, I've always kind of liked this page. Random little sketches here, little revolver there, that's a PlayStation 4. This is a import window lift, 47-15003. I had gotten my car window broken into and had to replace this little guy, and it was a whole procedure, a real pain in the ass. So I decided to commemorate it by having it in the sketchbook, but better example of, you know, definitely drawing something that was just right in front of me and getting the details down. But I feel like, you know, this helped me kind of conceptualize how, you know, some machine parts kind of connect, or, you know, things generally kind of flow. Super cool drawing here. Another one of my favorite pages. This is Ghetto from Jujutsu Kaisen. Really awesome page, I think. I definitely had started out with this drawing of him here. There was definitely like a, you know, off of Pinterest or something. And then did this, yeah, full body design, definitely from the manga. This was definitely not original. But just, I think, done super well. You know, I think his expression turned out really great. I love the hatching on his uniform here. And then I really like the colors that I ended up coloring in his dragon here with. I think it really pops. So yeah, super happy with this drawing. I feel like I also got this one done relatively quickly too, which for bigger pieces like this, they normally take me a long time. So yeah, I really love this page. And I believe this is the last page of the sketchbook. This is definitely, again, looking at Kim Jong-ji, and he does a lot of really great, you know, really wide kind of fish lens perspectives of inside mechanic shops and auto bodies. So I was really inspired by that to try and draw something similar, and just went at it without any planning, any kind of perspective in mind. So a lot of this is really wonky in terms of, like, this guy is huge compared to this Jeep. But, you know, sometimes you've got to have some failures along in the learning process, and I don't think this is the worst drawing overall. But yep, that brings us to the end of this sketchbook. Thank you all so much for watching this, and I hope you stay tuned. We'll have Sketchbook Tour Part 3 coming soon, and I think it's my best sketchbook to date. So I'm excited to share it with you all. Thanks so much. Bye.